name is Inez Reed Isaac, and I was born August 11th, 1934, in Greasy Creek. And I had a nephew that was the same age as me, so it's like Mom had a pair of twins. They was an hour difference. I was an hour older than he was. And some of my first memories is he built a fire. Dad would always build the fire, and then here he'd holler, Dale, get up. Fire's is ready. Get up. He was wanting his breakfast. And she'd finally get up. The first thing she'd do is she'd go and wash her face and her hands, and then she'd get her a comb and comb her hair. I remember her combing her hair every morning. That is one of the things in front of the fire before she even started breakfast. And
did she cut her hair, or was that long?
No, she never cut her hair then. She never did cut her. And she'd either plait it or sometimes just ball it up in a ball behind. But I can remember her cutting her hair. We had a fireplace, and so that's on the heat until the stove. And it's a lot warmer when you had the stove in the kitchen with wood in it. And I remember Dad getting me up on his laps in front of the fire in the winter time and put my socks and shoes on. That was one of his jobs for some reason or other. He'd tie them up and things. That's when I was too little. I could still remember that. And I remember at night he didn't want us to go flip in front of the lamp because he'd read his paper at night. When it got dark in the wintertime, he's always...
Where did he get that paper at? What paper did he read?
He got the Courier Journal, and it was always a day late. He had it mailed to him because he kept up. He was very alert about that. He kept up with all the politics and things. And he'd sometimes go up to Mary and Arthur's and listen to Joe Louis fight. That was one of the...
They had a radio, you didn't have one?
Yeah, we didn't have no radio, but they had one. We didn't have no electric. But they had a bar in it. A lot of times they'd because they didn't have that much, wood stacked up, they'd let the fire in the kitchen die out, and all you had was the grate, and it's kind of cold like of that. And everybody had a certain place to sit when they ate. Me and Bruce, we had a bench behind the table. We usually sat in the middle, and Gladys and Henry on each side. And
in the kitchen? You had a table in the kitchen?
No, it was in the dining room. We had a little dining room.
Oh,
I don't know why they had it.
Huh.
Because it was kitchen and a dining room. And then you had stairs. They had a door that opened, and stairs went up on the side of the house, went up to the other two rooms upstairs.
So you had to go outside to go upstairs?
No, it wasn't outside. It's just that kept all the heat. If you had any heat, that kept it all from going up the chimney.
Did you have any running water?
No, not hardly. We had a well that was out in the front yard, and we'd have to go out there and dip the bucket, put it down. You had weights on it. And we kept our milk. That's what kept it cold, was down in that well. It's
like a spring?
Spring. It was a dug well. Dad would clean it out every year, nearly go down in and dip and scrape out anything that made, and that way it come in clean water. But Mom said that for a long time they had plenty of water. They'd run out of water, though, when it come. After Kennel had a well, they drilled a well for gas or something over in Kennel's Bottom, which was right close to us. And she said ever since then, the well would go dry the summertime. And we'd have to go to this spring and wash clothes, or to the river one to wash the clothes. So that was quite a job. And I remember Mama boiling on the stove the white clothes and things to get them clean, because she had it much cleaner. Her clothes looked whiter than Mary's did.
She worked harder at that.
Neighbor. Yeah, she did that. And
Where did Grandpa get that farm? How did he get that? Was that his
that
dad's?
was from Mom's side. It was part of.
Well, why did Kendall live there then? If that was.
Well, I guess Kendall must have bought it or something, because that part Dad had a I guess you'd call it a hillside one, where he did the things up on the head. They called it the head of Greasy, where he had a little bit of land. But this was Scott Howard. It was part of Scott's place that he.
So when he married Grandma, Scott Howard gave him that.
He gave him that, and I don't know how. Camel must have bought the other part, because that belonged to my grandpa Scott too. I'm sure, where Rui and all of them, that whole thing there did.
Yeah.
But I never did hear how the other,
Reeds got
things,
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other Reeds got there.
But Press lived in where, the camel part there. But Press sold out and left to Saudeville. He went.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly. Press had 4 little ones that died, that's buried up there from childhood diseases. But
So that was a full brother to Grandpa.
Yeah,
Press and Kendall were.
yeah, and Beach was one that his Beach's. I don't know where Beach was a full one or not. No, maybe he was a half brother.
He wasn't Arzelius then.
No, I don't believe he was, but they said he was good looking and one of the very best ones. I've always heard that.
You didn't know him?
No, see, he would die, or if he did.
Oh, that's the one that's buried up at the Reed Cemetery.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. He died young.
Yeah.
He was killed.
They said he was, that's Kendall's boys
Oh.
killed him. Yeah. Shot him. They was all drunk, I guess, or something.
And where did Grandpa go to school, do you know?
I don't know. He didn't get much of education, but he was self-taught. He was really had a good mind, and he'd make his own chairs. He made his sled. A lot of people call them slides, but he sled like it that he pulled with the horses and things. And then they bought a wagon when Arnold got home from service. Dad had saved all the money he'd sent. He'd saved it for Arnold, and Arnold bought a team of mules called Pete and Lucy and a wagon, a new wagon. But Dad didn't live very long after that. And one thing I remember too is one time is us going to find a birch tree up in the woods, and me and Mom and Bruce, and Dad cut that birch tree down, and we took the sap. We thought that's the best thing ever was. We scraped it back. He scraped it back, and he made us little wooden buckets to carry it in. Even while we was out in the field, he made us these little wooden buckets out of bark, and we carried it, and we got caught in a thunderstorm as we was coming home. We all got wet, but we had really a good time. I've been before Bruce died. I wish I had asked him if he remembered that, because that's one of my memories.
How old were you think?
I don't know. It might have been in school. I'm not sure. And
Was Grandpa a good father, you think?
Yes, he was. He was really he was strict, awful strict. I went one time. Mom let me go to Ravenna's, and she said your dad after the next morning he come and had a little a switch, and he switched me all the way home for going. I don't think I went without his permission anymore, and he never would let us stay all night nowhere. I think well, that's probably after Dad died, though. I'd stay with Normie, some. And Mom would tell me, say, all they want you to do is wash their old filthy jars that they don't take the food out. Mom would always rinse hers as she took, out, and Mary just set hers back with the food in it, and it'd be dried, and neither one of them could get their hands in it. And mine did. I had little hands, and they'd go inside the jar, so. But I always loved staying with Normie because she had to cook. Normie had to cook every meal when I stayed with her, but they had honey that we didn't have, and quite a few things that we didn't have. But other than that, and Dad was going, and he had filled out. I had begged him to get me a coat from the catalog, and he had filled out
Sears,
I think it was Sears and Roebuck, and he had filled out an order for me a coat. When they found it in his pocket, in his overall pockets when he had his stroke, that he had filled out an order to buy me a coat.
Oh.
He was going to get, because I had begged him so long for a new coat, and he had that, and he'd buy good shoes when he bought, because he wanted them to last, with no sandals or nothing. They was Red Goose, or I forget the other brand. Anyways, they had to be a good leather shoe so he could half-sole. He half-soled.
What's that mean?
He put a half sole on them, where they wore out.
Like,
they had
so he could do kind of cobbler work. Huh?
Yeah, he'd do it himself. He had all that.
Huh.
And another thing that I remember was when Robinette, he'd come over there. He carried the library, and we'd get books, and we loved that. When he come to visit, he'd have books, and we'd keep them some till the next visit. That was the job that he had with Robinette. He done that. We liked that part. And then when you had to take to get some cornmeal, you had to take a sack, and they called it the meal sack. It was a real long, heavy sack. I guess they'd paid quite a bit for it, but they had, and Mom had a patch or two on it. But we'd get about 2 bushel of corn, and we'd have to shell that corn, make sure it's white. We'd throw out any, and then we'd make a checkerboard usually and play checkers. You'd use the corn. Sometimes there'd be red corn spotted in there, and you'd take it out. You kept the red corn for the checkers, and you bit off half of it or so for a king. And we played that. Bruce was a sore loser. He always was. He hated. Austin kind of reminds me of him. He's a sore loser. And Jenny, he was always a sore loser when it come to a lot of the things like that. But we'd do about 2 bushel of corn, and he'd take it to get it milled, and you paid the miller with extra meal. You gave him part of it for grinding it. Mm-hmm. So he'd come back with, probably almost a whole thing of corn. But you had to sieve it, and he made a sieve, out of screen wire and things, so where you had to get the husk out of it. Hmm. So it was quite a job to even make cornbread, because you had to do that. And
tell me about Grandpa's being able to use herbs and stuff.
Oh, yeah. He made mullein tea, and he made slippery elm. Anytime we was sick, he treated it with that. he'd go willow bark and wild cherry. That was one of his wild cherry was for upset stomach, and he had some for colds. There's different things. And sassafras tea was to lower your blood pressure. He made it. He'd have it. And all kinds. And then the neighbors had a boy called Campbell Everett Vanover. And he'd come, he'd have a nosebleed quite often. He'd come and get Dad, and Dad would take him out where the chopping block was and somehow stop his nosebleed. He'd do that every time he had a nosebleed, and how he done it, we never knowed, or nobody never found out. And of course,
Did you ask him?
we probably did, but he wouldn't have told us.
He wouldn't tell.
No. It was funny how that he stopped those nosebleeds, so.
And where did he learn how to do this?
I would say probably from his mother, which was part Indian, she was.
What was her name?
Arzili Dunn.
You know anything about her?
Not much. I know that Mom used to say that if something happened to her and Dad was left, he'd probably bring a woman in like old Bill did. Said he brought a woman in, and Arzili's footprints was still frozen in the ground, in the mud, when he brought Luli, which was the woman he married. He brought her home. So, no.
Did Grandma like Grandpa's dad? I mean, Mom?
I don't know. I didn't hear her say.
She didn't say much about her.
Yeah.
How old was Grandpa when she died? Do you know?
I have no idea. Well, Lace was the oldest, so he was, and not Lace, John. John was the oldest, of them, so I'd say he probably wouldn't awful, well, I don't know. She died after he got married, so he was 26 when he got married. Mom was 16 and he was 26 when they got married, so he would have been, if Mom knowed her, she must not have known her too much though. But Mom knowed her, Dad would have been, up good size when she died. Mint was the youngest one of his sisters. And
how did Grandma and Grandpa meet? Do you know?
I don't know where she ever told me or not. I can't remember. That probably come to the store there. They had a store.